preserve by preventing in the utmost of my power all offenses against the same, and that while I continue to hold any office in the force, I will obey all orders of persons placed in authority over me, subject myself to all acts and regulations relating to the police, and I will, to the best of my skill and knowledge, discharge all the duties of my office faithfully according to law. So help me God. I normally use reading glasses. I had a bit of a struggle here.
Sorry about that. Now, Mr. Commissioner, let me ask you this. This oath of office that you took, as most of us that sits around here took, would you have taken this oath of office at any other point in your career, apart from swearing in?
The same oath of office? No.
Would you have taken this oath of office when you were sworn in as a commissioner of police?
There's a slight difference.
The wordings are the same, but the office is different?
And I think there's a difference in the wording as well. I do not recall. I think it is shorter than that.
Right. But this is an oath of office that is etched in your memory.
Yes.
And so is the day that you got sworn in as a policeman.
Yes.
Good. All right. So let's talk about Travis Chase for a moment. You're aware that Mr. Chase gave evidence before this commission.
I read it in the news.
And you're aware that Mr. Chase said that he is of the view that the police was not investigating this matter with the desired alacrity based on interviews he conducted with Andrew Gillard.
I'm not very clear. I know there were words to that effect, but whether it was Gillard's view or Chase's view, I'm not so sure. But I did read something of this sort.
Well, the police lawyer asked him.
Okay.
The lawyer, Mr. Chang, who the force hired, is it you who hired Mr. Chang?
Yes.
Yes, well, Mr. Chang asked him those questions so that he can distinguish whether the views were Mr. Chase's views or Mr. Gillard's.
I'm not denying that. You asked me if I was aware,
well, you
and
answered
I'm
my
saying
question.
yes.
You're aware that David Ramnarine, Assistant Commissioner of Police, came before this commission on Friday?
I read that in the news as well.
Yes, and are you aware that Mr. Ramnarine's views are the same as Mr. Chase, that the police investigation of this matter was poor?
He said it was improper. I think that's what I read. I wasn't here.
Well,
I
whatever
don't know.
words he used,
Yeah.
he questioned the credibility of the investigation or the integrity of the investigation conducted by the Guyana Police Force that you had.
Yeah, unfortunately, you only did that here, not during the course of the investigation prior to.
Well, let me ask you this. Are you of the same view that Mr. Ramnarine took? That the quality of the investigation was poor and its integrity is compromised?
Not at all. Quite contrary. I think a proper investigation was done in the matter.
You're aware that Travis Chase as well testified
I said
at
I
the
read
prodding. Let me finish my
Okay.
question.
I'm sorry.
At the prodding of Mr. Chang, that there was a cover-up in the investigation that was being conducted. You're aware of that?
I am not aware that he said that. And I'm not aware also of any fact that was provided to this commission about a cover-up in the investigation.
Well, I'm here to show that Mr. Chase's view is not due to any ill will towards the police, nor any acts to grind with them, but it's rather in consonant with that of others. So let me ask you this. Do you know Mr. Chase?
Yes,
How long have you known Mr. Chase?
Not very long. I know that the police force played a cricket match against the media. He played in that match. And I would have heard him in the force. We never had personal interaction or anything. So.
All right, well, let me ask you this. And let me finish the question and then you answer. Will you describe your knowledge of Mr. Chaser, knowing him as very well, or not so well?
That is not my job, and I don't do that. I don't do that as a person.
No, you answer my questions. I asked you the question and you answer.
My answer is I do not do that, so I can't.
Do you know Mr. Chase very well?
No.
Not so well? Or not at all?
I know him not very well.
Very well.
Or not so well.
All right, so you've answered my question.
Yeah.
And you would know Mr. Chase from covering matters, whether it's in your conference room or at police-related events?
I see him around, yes.
Yes, and he would ask you questions during interviews from time to time.
I don't think there were many. As a matter of fact, I don't recall any at this moment.
Right. Well, but you've seen Mr. Chase.
He was among groups of persons that would have asked questions, groups of reporters that would have asked questions, yes.
All right. But you've seen Mr. Chase work when you watch television or if you read it through briefings.
No, I probably would hear from time to time his use. I've never seen his work.
All right, you've never seen his work.
No.
Have you ever had cause to question any of his work?
No.
You've never had cause to question his work?
No.
And have my client ever give you any cause to distrust any reporting that he's made on any issue governing policing in Guyana?
Just go back that question, please.
In terms of my client's role as a reporter, has he ever given you cause to distrust anything that he's reported through HGP, TV Nightly News, or any other agencies that he worked with?
All I could say is that I have never caused an investigation into anything that would have he would have said in any newscast or otherwise.
So the answer is no.
If yes, no.
When did you become aware that Mr. Chase recorded an interview with Mr. Gillard?
I heard about an interview being aired sometime, maybe shortly after the report was made.
When was that?
I can't recall.
Who advised you?
I can't recall either.
Mr. Commissioner, let me ask you this. You're the Commissioner of Police.
Yep.
And all police officers are issued with pocketbooks.
That's the various stages of the force, yes.
Yes, I don't know, you may have a different name you call it. Do you still call it pocketbooks?
There were a lot of times when we didn't have those issues for economic and other
But
reasons.
the police officers that came here before Commissioner Snow, some of them came in their pocket.
Yeah, the force is far better now than some periods when I served.
Yes, I appreciate that. But let me ask you this, Mr. Commissioner. Do you have a pocketbook?
No.
How do you record entries of issues that are brought to your attention by officers?
It's filtered, so if there's a need to record, I do record.
Do you have a Batman or an orderly?
No. I have a personal assistant, and I have a secretary and a secretariat that assists the office of the commissioner.
Right, but who records if you don't take a contemporaneous recording, which is what your job is as a policeman? You're a policeman regardless of whether you're a commissioner or a constable, right?
Yes.
And you're supposed to take contemporaneous notes, aren't you?
On matters that we are investigating, on matters of interest, yes.
And matters that are brought to your attention in your office as a police officer. Isn't that the case?
No, it's not the case.
Well, I'm going to suggest to you that it is.
I will tell you that it is not the case and it's not necessary.
Did you take any notes in respect to these matters touching on the assassination plot against the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana?
No, I didn't.
Why didn't you take notes?
It was not necessary.
I'm going to suggest to you that it was.
I am going to continue to say that it was not.
I'm going to suggest to you that it was a neglect of duty for you not to take notes on an important issue such as this.
I will totally deny that.
You say that you don't know the date when you were advised that Mr. Chase did an interview with Gillard.
No, it was of no interest to me.
It was of no interest to you. Well, we're going to get to that.
Yes.
You would not have known. Were you in contact with Sidney James?
Sidney James heads a unit of the force, and he reports to the commissioner. That contact is
Right.
there.
And did Sidney James speak to you about the DVD that Travis Chase handed over to him of an interview with Gillard?
I'm not aware of a DVD except what I read in the news recently when Assistant Commissioner Ramnarine gave evidence.
Well, let me say this to you. You're telling this commission, well, let me ask you this before I ask you that. You came back from leave when?
On the 3rd of April.
And when you came back from leave, Deputy Commissioner Ramnarine testified that you asked for the file to come to you.
No.
And the briefing notes, including the briefing notes that was to be given to the president.
If he said that, it is not true.
Well, let me ask you this.
I did ask, he said that the National Security Committee is requesting an interim report, and he's preparing one. So I told him to send it over, and I simultaneously asked Senior Superintendent Blanham to prepare the report, because I think that the report of the persons involved in the investigation would have been the best report to send to the National Security Committee.
And was the